So these production rule sets are typically for handling some rules directly in the production environment, right? So the other ones, the other rules that are part of your application rule sets and all will be design time aspects. I mean, like uh, you create the rules, you modify them. So those are typically for your developers, whereas production rule sets are different. So these production rule sets, they are not going to consider any random rules. Instead, we generally tend to put the rules that are delegated, right? So few rules when you want the business to modify them directly. So those will go and sit in the production rule sets. Right? So you can see them on the application definition of our application, but not on the stack this time. Instead, we see them as a separate entity. So where do you see that is, let's look at the application definition. And generally, your production rule sets are not locked, right? Because there is a purpose when you're putting in something in the production rule set, which means you are expecting some frequent changes for those rules, right? So generally, your production rule sets are not locked, unlike your other organization or application rule sets. So here you see, these are my regular rule sets, whereas on the advanced tab, you get to see the production rule sets. Right? So the purpose of this is going to be for your rule delegations, or whenever you think there might be frequent changes on these rules, we tend to delegate it to the business users. Right? It might be product owners, stakeholders, or it could be your BAs as well. Right? You hand over some privilege to them so that whenever there is a change in the business, they would be able to make the changes directly on the rule set. So that is why we don't even lock it. Right? Because I cannot expect a business user to open a rule set, unlock it first, then make changes, then lock it. So I cannot expect all of this to happen from a business user. So ideally, your production rule sets are specific to those rules that have frequent changes, and it is ideally unlocked. Right? So that's about the production rule sets. Okay. Then what is important is the rule set validation. So any rule set you open, so let me open a rule set. Any rule set you open, you have something called as a validation. So there are two radio choices here: application validation, rule set validation. Now, for this application rule set, by default, I see it is set to application validation mode by default because I did not create these rule sets, right? Now, when you look at the organizational rule set, it goes the other way. It is in a rule set validation. So again, I did not create this. The system has created your application rule sets to be in the application validation mode, whereas organization wants to be in the rule set validation mode. Okay, how is this happening, or why is this even happening? Or is this validation mode really important? Yes, it is. Because when I start creating my own rule sets, I should know which validation I would be using. Just seems like a simple radio choice, but there's a lot of thing that is going behind this decision that we make. Okay, so let's see what it is. So this thing that we are going to discuss about the validation is a design time aspects, right? When you're creating a rule set, which version or which validation should you go for, right? So this is considered when you try to save a rule, right? It's during the design time aspect that you start looking at this. Okay, so I understood there are two modes: application validation or rule set validation. So going forward, I will call them AV and RV. Now, how are they even important for us? So AV and RV modes define the accessibility of your rules. Okay. So from which rule set into which rule set can I access the rules? So you can access rules among the same rule set, always possible. Okay. But if I'm trying to access rules from other rule sets, how can I do it? So is there a restriction on it? Yes. So that depends upon the modes that you choose. Okay. So each validation is going to have certain standards or probably rules that we are going to talk about. If your rule set is in the AV mode, it can access or it can refer rules from within the same application. So from any rule set within the same application, I can access the rules. Or it could also be part of any built-on application. I can still access them. So just making it simple, almost the entire rule set stack, right? Or the rule sets below your current rule set of the entire stack can be accessed. What cannot be accessed is going to be any rules that are outside, or if it's not part of my application, I cannot access them if you're going for the AV mode. Okay, so what are two rules as part of AV mode? You can access rules from same application, number one. Number two is any rule sets belonging on the built-on application. So remember these, we'll come back to this again. Okay, so let's see this maybe through a quick example. So what are the two rules that I have in hand? For AV mode, I can access rules from the same application, and I can also access rules from any built-on application. Okay, now let's quickly see this, how this is going to work. Okay, now currently I have like two okay, right. So I have a loan application here which has two rule sets: loan pricing and loan underwriting. So assume both of them are in the AV mode. Okay, then I have a loan framework application which is having rule sets called loan pricing FW, loan underwriting FW. So obviously I can understand that loan application is built on loan framework. It's a built-on application. Fine. Now let's look at each of the rule sets. We'll see how can it refer rules from other rule sets. Will it be able to or not? First, let me choose loan pricing. Can loan pricing access rules from loan underwriting? Can it?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, because it's part of the same application. Perfect. Now, loan pricing, can it access rules from loan pricing FW and loan underwriting FW?
No.
Can it? But as part of our second rule, if it is in my built-on application, yes, I should be able to access them, right?
But for loan
Because your loan,
application,
Mhm.
okay, the
So
loan
you
for loan application, the built-on is loan framework. Okay, yes, it can
exactly,
access.
exactly. So when you look at the stack, so this goes below your loan pricing. So yes, you would be able to access it. I mean, both pricing FW and underwriting FW can provide rules for your loan pricing. Perfect. And what about loan underwriting? Can it access rules from loan pricing?
Yes.
Yes, exactly, because same application. Can it access rules from the framework application? Yes,
Yes,
because
it
it is
can.
a built on, right. Now, loan pricing FW. Can it access rules from loan application,
No.
from your loan pricing or loan underwriting? No, because one thing, they are not part of same application. Okay, but still, if we try to check, they are above your stack, right? They are not below. So you cannot access rules from pricing or underwriting, but you can access from loan underwriting FW. Again, because same application. Okay. Then what about loan underwriting FW? What all it can access?
It can access loan pricing FW, but it cannot
Perfect.
access the loan application.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So we would be looking at only two thumb rules here. Either it should be part of the same application, or it should at least be part of any built-on application. Only then I can access my rules. So this holds good for your AV mode. Okay. So if you are trying to have, um, reference between multiple rule sets, and you're trying to reuse them across different places, then we would go for this AV modes. Okay. So see, when you have rules spread across different rule sets, and you would like to refer them one from each of the rule sets, right? I mean, if you want to reuse it across rule sets, you can go for this AV mode,
Okay.
right? So there you're trying to access rules across different rule sets, and also from the built-on applications as well. So that's then added advantage there. Right? So by default, all your application rule sets are set to AV modes. Okay,
Yes.
right. So on the other hand, now what does this RV mode do? So this RV mode, the rule set validation mode, has some prerequisites here. Okay, the restriction is, it's not like any random rule from any rule set can be accessed in RV mode. No, here I can only access those rules that are part of a prerequisite rule set. So here comes one more new term called prerequisite rule set. For example, let me just show the, yes, so this is our so-called organization rule set XYZ, which is set on the validation mode, right? I mean the RV mode. Now once you look at the rule set, you see there is something called as required rule sets and versions. So XYZ, your so-called organization rule set, is depending upon XYZ int rule set. So this is a prerequisite rule set, what we call it. Okay, now if I open this, so XYZ int is also on the RV mode. And once I open this, you see it says Pega PRPC, some so-called version is there, and this is going to be your prerequisite rule set. Okay, so for RV modes, you always have a prerequisite rule set. Okay, and once you start looking at this RV mode, you have this term called prerequisite rule set coming into picture. And why is that important? It's important because when it is an RV mode, I can only access rules from my prerequisite rule set, not from any other rule set. So it might be in the same application, it might be in a different application, it might be in a built-on application, doesn't matter. If it is listed on the prerequisite rule set, only then I can access it. So that's the thumb rule for RV mode. So what does it say? RV mode says that you can only access, or you can only refer those rules that are available on the prerequisite rule set. Okay. But one thing that we have to make sure is, do not bring in a cyclic dependency here. Okay. Suppose you say ABC is dependent upon XYZ. Now don't go to XYZ rule set and put ABC as a prerequisite rule set. That doesn't work, right? So for the RV mode, always remember that if it is part of a prerequisite, I can access it. If not, no. Clear cut. I mean, clear with the RV?
Yes.
Yes, right. So now the advantage of combining these two together, both RV and AV. So when can I do it, or how well if I do it, it would be most suitable for me? Because obviously I cannot keep on creating the same rule in multiple rule sets just for the sake of using it, right? So you create it in one or the other rule set, and I should be able to access it wherever required. So that's your optimum level of design that you should make, correct? So let's see